Welcome to Tales from the Schiz, where I tell you a story about my life with schizoaffective disorder and sometimes make you laugh in the process. But don't romanticize it, it still sucks a lot. Today we're gonna have a spooky Tales from the Schiz because it's Halloween, hence the set design. I literally saw this background online and decided that I needed it for spooky times on the channel. So I got it and here we are. But anyways, I see and hear things as part of my condition, so sometimes people wonder, have I ever thought that my hallucinations were spirits? So today, let's answer that question and dive a little bit deeper than I have in the past about one particular hallucination I have that acts like a ghost and tries to make me think he's one constantly. I'll go over the 3 ways this guy, who goes by the name of Jay, acts the part. I have mentioned him in other videos. Jay has actually been around quite a long time and has come up a bunch. But let's really talk about him. Expose it all, if you will. So if that sounds good to you, then sit back, grab a beverage, and let's get into it. Ooh. I do want to start off this video by letting you guys know that I'm not trying to infringe on anyone's beliefs when it comes to spirits and ghosts. If you believe in either or both of them, that's okay. This video isn't about whether ghosts are real or not. It's about a hallucination that acts like one and my experience with that. This is not me saying that ghosts aren't real and that all ghosts are hallucinations. That is not what I'm saying at all. But what I do want to say is that in that vein, don't try to convince me that this hallucination is a ghost and is real once you've watched this video. That would be kind of harmful to me. But I also get enough of that from Jay himself, so it's not like any YouTube comments are really gonna get to me. And trust me, this hallucination tries to convince me he's real way more than anyone in the comment section ever will. In other words, if you want to try, my psychosis will beat you to it. So, don't try. Also, Jay is generally a positive experience. He and I are actually, dare I say it, friends. Albeit, it's an interesting friendship to say the least. But I want to make it clear that even with this knowledge, I still do not want to be hallucinating. Even if, once again, it's a generally positive experience. It's not a positive thing overall because at the end of the day, I'm still having psychotic symptoms, which are, as many of you know, damaging to the brain. And I don't like brain damage. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get started on the 3 ways that my hallucination, who goes by the name of Jay, acts like a ghost. The first thing I have to get out of the way, and I've already alluded to it, is that Jay tells me he's a ghost. He tells me he's a spirit, which is something a ghost would do, right? So constantly, when Jay and I have discussions whenever he's around, which is relatively often, he tells me he is a ghost, a being from the other side. And I should just accept it. That on a deep level, I know he's real. It's the funniest thing, honestly, because I do actually have insight into this aspect of my psychotic disorder. And he and I often argue about this because he is psychosis, and I know he's psychosis. Jay is a psychotic symptom. I take medication for this, but telling my literal psychosis that he isn't real is such a wild thing to do. And so, I will say it to his face, and he will deny it to my face. Like, Jay, you're just literally my disorder. And he will say, Kit, you know I'm real. That happens all the time. I wish that he would just accept he was a hallucination. I wish that's how psychosis worked. But alas, that'll probably never happen. Much like how he wishes for me to accept that he is real, which will also never happen. But I've known him for years, and this has not let up the entire time. And won't, probably. So it's become one of our trademark things that I always have to deal with. And I often just roll my eyes. It's not like he can do anything to me. And another thing, which is kind of creepy and bridges into the next thing, is that he claims he's always there. I just can't perceive him when we're not interacting with one another. Which is something a ghost would say. But he ain't a ghost. And golly oh golly, the plot just gets deeper. And that's gonna be a theme. On to the next thing. The second bit is how he low-key haunts my apartment and haunts my workplace. So the weird thing about Jay is that he is a presence. I don't see him exactly. I don't see him physically with my eyes. I merely sense him there. But I do know what he looks like. He's got like ice blue eyes with no pupils and no irises, which is unsettling, and is 100% a barely formed shadow otherwise. Kind of in the general shape of a humanoid with a head and arms, but just a blob for legs, which is also unsettling. And you know how ghosts traditionally like hanging around places? Well, Jay does that. He hangs around my apartment. Bedroom, living room, kitchen, all of it. Again, he claims he's always around. I just can't always tell when he's there. I mean, I only hallucinate him a few times a week at the most. I've had plenty of periods where I haven't seen him for weeks at a time. And I'll just be chilling and then he'll pop up and he'll just be in my kitchen, by the guinea pig cage, in my bedroom. Sometimes he'll watch shows with me or be there when I craft. He literally just acts like he's haunting the place and is kind of bored. It's hilarious, honestly, when I think about it. And he doesn't exactly bother me when he does this, which might be weird, that I'm just so used to it that it's no big deal for me, and maybe that's the reality of psychosis for me. But my psychosis is so normalized with me. Like, I just accept it and deal with it. So Jay is just there sometimes, and I just keep doing what I'm doing, you know? And he also haunts the lab I work in as well. Claims he always comes with me to work, etc. Back to him claiming to be around all the time. But he doesn't bother me or distract me there either. Sometimes we talk while I do protocols alone. Always, always alone. And it's kind of nice at times. But again, I just kind of accept him as a presence that will show up sometimes. Much like how ghosts do in the movies when they're haunting. Good old Jay. The final thing is something that took me way too long to realize. He is a sardine. Let me explain. Thing is, I was in a psychotic episode back in July. And during that time, I started sensing shadow people. They were much like the way I described Jay earlier in this video. Shadows, not very formed. And they were numerous during the episode. I originally described them as being crammed in like sardines at times. Thus, I have called them the sardine people ever since. And they continue to appear sometimes, unfortunately, in corners of rooms and the ends of hallways. But they don't touch me, which was a thing during my last episode. They kind of just stand there. But at one point during my episode, Jay was actually chasing away the sardine people when they got too close to me, so that they wouldn't touch me, which was kind of him. But I didn't realize until later on that they looked the same. Jay and the sardine people. The shadows, the formlessness. Jay is one of them. He's a shadow person. And with that, the plot thickened. Because the sardines also act like ghosts. They act like restless spirits stuck in purgatory. Originally, that's what I thought they were before I knew better. Before I knew I had a psychotic disorder, I thought the sardine people were spirits of those that were unable to pass on, or weren't allowed to pass on. It was a fate I didn't want, so I was a little bit scared of the end of all things. But it wasn't until this last schizoaffective episode that I learned it was all one big psychosis. The sardine people weren't real. They were all in my head. There isn't some awful purgatory waiting for me. And Jay is one of the sardines. So all the sardines, Jay included, really do act like ghosts. And thank goodness none of them are real. This last little bit comes from a fun fact about me making and producing this video. And it's that Jay doesn't like it. He can't do anything. Can't do anything at all. He isn't happy. And when a hallucination isn't happy, it's always a weird feeling. Like, am I making myself unhappy? Am I not liking a part of myself? Either way, I have insight, so I don't worry about it. And me making this video that talks about all of it is kind of a win. Maybe he will finally believe he isn't a ghost now. And I'll be honest, at the end of the day, I don't mind Jay. Like I said in the beginning of the video, we are friends. Jay actually helps me out a lot when he's around. He leaves me alone when I need to do things, even if he technically stands there watching me the whole time, which really isn't as bad as it sounds. And he provides on-the-spot advice when I need someone to talk to. And yes, I do take advice and suggestions from my hallucinations. In a way, I view them as parts of me that are there to help me at times in really weird ways. But that's another video. And a funny thing that happened recently when it comes to Jay is that I won a word game at work, unfortunately for me. And I needed to come up with a related word It had to do with the fall season, because then I had to host it, and I didn't really want to do that, but it's all part of the game. Regardless, I scrambled to come up with a good word. So I did what someone with a psychotic disorder who experienced hallucinations does, and I just asked Jay for a word. He suggested Renaissance Fair, and I used it. No one will ever know that a hallucination came up with it. Unless they find this video, of course. But it's a fun thing. In the end, Jay isn't real because I take medication that makes him go away. He is not here all of the time, he is here some of the time. And so to end this spooky tales from the skits, if you have a story about a hallucination or another psychotic symptom that acted like a ghost or another paranormal phenomenon, do drop it in the comments below, as I would love to hear you guys' stories. And remember, don't tell me that Jay is a ghost, or a spirit, or anything else. Thanks in advance for keeping that out of my comment section. He is psychosis, and that is reality. And that's the end of this Tales from the Skits. If you want more stories like this one, check out the Tales from the Skits playlist right over here. But other than that, thank you for joining me in making the uncomfortable comfortable. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.